Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take the sources you send us and, well, we dive deep to pull out the key insights.
Exactly. We do the digging so you get the core story.
And today, we're looking at something really interesting, a personal look back by Alan Huffman at the early days of Sub-Etha Software. He wrote this in October '94.
Yeah, so it's a perspective from, relatively close to the events. It gives you a real behind-the-scenes feel for a company that was right in the middle of the color computer community, the Coco scene.
Right, the Radio Shack color computer. So this source, it covers how they started their first products hitting the Coco festivals.
Which were huge for the community back then, and also his thoughts on the whole scene. It's not just dates and facts, it's got that personal touch.
Okay, so our goal here is to give you a clear picture of Sub-Etha's beginnings, sort of their place in the Coco world in the early 90s.
Let's jump in then.
Okay, so the genesis. Sub-Etha Software kicks off in 1990. It's Alan Huffman and Terry Todd.
And their mission statement, if you like, was super simple. In support of the Coco.
That really says it all, doesn't it? Very direct.
It does. It shows where their hearts were. It wasn't just about business. It was about the platform itself.
And their first products were Terry Todd's creations, right? Shadow BBS.
Right, the bulletin board system.
Yeah.
Which apparently started life as SMORB BBS, kind of an internal name.
Okay. And Multi-Basic.
Yeah, Multi-Basic was the language he actually developed to build the BBS.
Yeah.
And it was for Aristos, the standard Coco disk operating system at the time. So the products were tightly linked from day one.
And here's a fun bit. The company was almost called 42 Technology.
Nah, really? 42? Like Hitchhiker's Guide.
Seems like it. And Multi-Basic was nearly module DOS. It's funny how those things could have gone differently.
Definitely gives you a sense of those early brainstorming sessions. And how did they first get the word out?
Their first move was an ad in the Rainbow magazine. Just a quarter-page ad, November 1990.
The Rainbow, okay, that was the magazine for Coco users. Starting small, grassroots.
Totally. But then, things took a sharp turn. A chat with Dave Myers from Coco Pro.
Yes. That conversation apparently led them to decide, maybe somewhat impulsively, to go to the first Atlanta Coco Fest.
Which was a much bigger step than just running an ad.
For sure. But according to Alan, it was actually affordable, or somewhat affordable, compared to the bigger Rainbow Fests run by the magazine publisher.
And how they got there is classic. Hitching a ride.
In the back of a pickup truck?
Yeah.
All the way from Houston. Nancy and John Ward gave them a lift.
That's incredible. Just shows the camaraderie, the lengths people would go to back then.
It really does. And they didn't just show up empty-handed. They debuted a program called Mini Banners.
After programming it for just 1 week?
1 week! Talk about agile development. Even back then, they wanted something new for the show.
Meanwhile, those rainbow ads for Shadow BBS were generating huge interest.
Overwhelming interest, apparently. But the software wasn't quite ready for release, so they couldn't actually meet the demand immediately.
Oh, wow. A good problem to have, maybe, but still a problem.
Exactly. It shows there was a real hunger for new Coco software, but also the challenges for a small outfit trying to scale up production, even just disk copying and mailing back then.
They also tried selling hardware, the 5 1/4-inch disk drives.
Yeah, they wanted to have the lowest price advertised in the Rainbow, but they ran into this snag with the power cable adapters for a specific model, the FD502.
Ah, the little details that trip you up. Hardware compatibility. Always fun.
Always. It's a reminder that it wasn't just about code. Logistics mattered a lot, especially for small vendors.
So moving into 91, Terry Todd stepped back for a bit.
Temporarily, yeah. But Alan kept the flag flying. Mark Page joined him for the Atlanta 91 Fest, so they maintained that presence.
And they started broadening their offerings, not just their own stuff.
Right. They began carrying software from others, like Joel Hegberg's checkbook, Plus to
Yeah.
Parents, and Carl England's disk utilities, which were pretty useful.
Collaboration seems key here. They even shared a booth.
With Adventure Survivors, yeah. It paints a picture of a pretty cooperative environment, even among vendors, everyone supporting the Coco.
And there was that scanner thing.
Oh yeah, the full-page scanner attachment, a 64 grayscale scanner for the Coco in, 91? That was ambitious stuff.
Did it ever come out?
Sadly, no. It was shown as a prototype, generated buzz, but never made it to final production. Still, it shows the kind of forward-thinking happening.
Okay, 1992. Chicago. The first annual Last Coco Fest. Love that name.
Yeah. A bit of self-aware humor in the community, maybe. Mark Page and Joel Hegberg went with Alan this time.
And the focus shifted a bit towards OSK.
Seems like it. OSK products for the MM1 computer that was a more advanced Cocoa-compatible machine. Joel Hegberg had his EthaGI, a graphical user interface for OSK.
So adapting to where the platform or parts of it were heading.
Exactly. And they weren't just selling software. They were helping launch the OS9 Underground magazine by taking subscriptions right there at their booth.
Really getting involved in the infrastructure of that OS9 community then.
Absolutely. They also carried Animagic's OS9 software. Alan mentions sharing a cramped booth with Strongware. You can just picture the energy, booths packed together.
Then back to Atlanta later in '92. Terry's back.
Terry was back, yeah, though Mark couldn't make that one. And Terry had something new. InfoPatch.
InfoPatch.
What did that do?
It let you modify those classic Infocom text adventures, like Zork, so they display in 80 columns on a Coco 3.
Ah, okay. So tweaking existing stuff to work better on the hardware. Niche, but probably very welcome.
Definitely for the dedicated users. And this Atlanta '92 Fest is where the famous PVC nightmare happened.
Oh, right. The backdrop store.
They didn't have a proper booth backdrop, so they went to a hardware store, bought PVC pipes and joints, and built one in the parking lot.
Resourceful.
Alan described it as very unstable, adding, but then again, the same is often said about us. Classic humor.
Huh. But it was a step up, wasn't it? Their first full booth.
That's what he notes, yeah. A sign of growth, even if the backdrop was a bit wobbly.
Okay, 93. A different vibe in Des Moines, Iowa. Sounds like it. Smaller show, maybe less crazy. Tim Johns helped Alan out this time because Terry was apparently busy installing satellite dishes.
Satellite dishes, okay, multi-talented group.
Seems so. But even though it was smaller, the Des Moines show was good for them financially. Joel's right word processor for the MM1 sold really well there.
Interesting. So even smaller events could be worthwhile if you had the right product for that audience.
Exactly. And they also showed a prototype of EthaWin, their next-gen graphical interface, always showing something new.
Then the second last, Chicago Coco Fest. These names.
Hey, yeah. This one sounds like a bigger deal, though. A huge drive for Alan and Terry, over 1,000 miles.
And some drama on the road.
A run-in with a diesel truck on the tollway, as Alan put it. He was good at capturing these little invention details in his reports. This was their biggest show yet.
Drawing people from all over.
Yeah, OS9 users from across the U.S., even internationally, shows the reach of that particular niche within the Coco world.
Right.
Then their fourth Atlanta Fest, October '93. What was new there?
Okay, this is pretty meta. They released a graphic adventure game that was about the previous year's Chicago Fest.
Huh, that's brilliant. A game simulating the Coco Fest experience.
Yeah. Plus the multi-boot boot file manager and the very first utility for EthaWin called Towel.
Towel, another Hitchhiker's reference.
Almost certainly. Tim Johns was still helping out, and Terry was showing off a new terminal emulator for RS-DOS.
What was special about it?
It could handle OS9 screen codes, and he demoed it using the Coco's bitbanger port, like direct hardware control, pushing 2400 baud for full screen text.
Wow. Okay, that's pretty clever hacking to get that kind of speed and functionality back then. Impressive.
Moving to '94, Chicago again. More collaborators this time.
Yeah, Tim Johns' Joe Tay Productions and also Blackhawk Enterprises were there with them, a bigger presence.
And did they remember the PVC this time?
No. They forgot the PVC nightmare backdrop and some personal stuff, but Alan still called it their most organized show yet.
Well, progress. Shows they were learning, streamlining things, even with the odd forgotten item.
Definitely. They were becoming seasoned veterans of the fest circuit.
Which brings us back to where the retrospective kind of culminates. Atlanta, October 1994. 5 years after they started doing the fests.
A real milestone. And they brought new people into the fold, first-time attendees, Bob Rutherford and Alex Forrest, growing the community.
And new products again.
Of course. Another graphic adventure, this one based on the Chicago '94 show, with graphics converted by Alan Sheltra, plus a fast-paced arcade game, Invaders '09, and updates to their older software, too.
Always improving, always adding. But Alan also had some thoughts on the community itself around this time, didn't he? His soapbox comments.
Yes, and this is really insightful. He made a strong plea for users to actively support the vendors and publishers, to give feedback, to buy the software, and to support things like the Coco registry, local clubs, newsletters.
Because the whole ecosystem depended on it.
Absolutely. He saw it as a two-way street. The vendors provided the tools and entertainment, but they needed the community's active participation and, frankly, their purchases to keep going. It wasn't just about code. It was about sustaining that shared world.
That's a really important point about those early niche communities. And finally, there was some inside joke about a cookie.
Yeah. Apparently a cookie reward for figuring out some obscure reference in his report, which he insists had nothing to do with anything discussed here. Just a bit of fun.
Keeps it human.
Yeah.
So wrapping this up, Sub-Etha's journey from 1990 to 94. It's quite a story.
It really is. From a simple idea supporting the Coco to becoming a fixture at the fests, developing innovative software, collaborating with others, weathering challenges like unstable backdrops and power cables.
You see their products evolving from RS-DOS tools to OS 9's UIs and games.
Yeah.
And you see their deep connection to the user community.
It paints a vivid picture of what it was like to be part of that specific corner of the early personal computing world. The passion, the resourcefulness, the collaboration.
It definitely gives you a much deeper appreciation for how these things grew, driven by individuals and communities, not just big corporations.
For sure.
So maybe something to think about as we finish this dive. We've seen the blend of technical innovation and community spirit in the Coco world through Sub-Etha's story. What about other early computer communities? The Apple II scene, Commodore, Atari, CP/M users. What unique challenges did they face? What kind of innovations emerged from their communities?
That's a great question. Exploring their histories might reveal fascinating parallels, but also key differences in how those ecosystems developed, and what we can learn today from all of their experiences in building tech communities from the ground up.